Good?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So far we've been talking about Mahavir's non-violence. Mahavir has given us a sutra, ahimsa, sanjamo, tavo. Ahimsa, non-violence, sanjamo is sanyam, and tavo is tap. If ahimsa is the soul of your body, sanyam is the prana of the body, and tap is your physical body. So that's how you have to relate, and that will explain the concept of ahimsa, sanjamo, tavo. So Mahavir starts with ahimsa first because he considers is the centerpiece of the whole dharma. He says without ahimsa we cannot go any further. Sanyam is the utilization of that soul and connecting the bridge between your soul and the body, meaning your actions in the outside world. Most of the religions, they start from outside. Do this, don't do this, why not do this, do this. All the teachings, yams and niyams and all that. Mahavir says, I do not believe in this. He says, I'm giving the most of the importance to the soul itself because that's where the transformation is possible. Your action is like a leaf which is dead leaf falls from the tree, and then you're looking at the leaf and trying to compare and all that. It doesn't tell you anything about the tree. Action can be copied very easily. You can act like a sannyasi. You may not be a sannyasi within. So Mahavir's non-violence is starting from the center of yourself. And that's why he wants you to realize that that's where the real action is. A tree is absorbing all the nutrients from the ground and going through the process of transferring all these minerals and water and all those things and then ultimately producing the leaves, and then ultimately leaf finishes its course and then goes into the real world. The same way when you act, your action is starting initially with your thoughts. Thoughts are controlled by your bhav, and bhav by your state of your soul. All these things are connected. So Mahavir says that's where the clarifications, that's where the purification needs to be done. If your atma is pure, your bhav will be pure. If your bhav is pure, your thoughts will be pure. And if your thoughts are pure, actions have to be pure. So why waste your time in correcting the actions? Because you have a very short time you have as a human life. Spend more time with your atma. So non-violence, when he said non-violence, people who listened to him, the only thing they were doing at that time were living the life of a leaf. They were living the life of actions, the material world, because that's all they had. They had no depth of the soul. They had no depth of their purity of their characters. So all they went after was the non-violence or not killing the animals. That's the most idiotic and the most primitive way of saying that I am non-violent. And they kept on stretching to the max. They kept on stretching to the, oh, where is the tiny ant sitting there? Oh, there are bugs in there. That's why I should put the mupati on my face, this and that. They got so intricately connected with the material life that they never had a chance to go into what Mahavir had to say. So first of all, in last series of lectures that we talked about, the non-violence really is lot more than just killing or not killing someone. So people who have really understood the essence of life, they know that the real nectar of life, the real life force is something that cannot be killed. It never dies. So killing someone and not killing someone is an oxymoron. Are you killing? Are you killing the person with the soul and the thoughts and the ideas and all the vrittis and vasanas, or are you killing the person's physical body? When you're talking about for killing the physical body and you're spending your time, whether why did I kill you, for that courts are there. Courts are already there to decide why did you kill this person, this and that. But if that's where the limitation was, then the judges would be and the policemen would be a better people to handle all that than Mahavir and Krishna. We don't need them. But Mahavir looks further deep within, and that's where the real definition of non-violence starts coming up. So that's why meditation becomes extremely important, because coming to the yoga class and not meditating is like the biggest sin that you're really doing. It's like going to the river Ganges, doing all the puja and all that, and walking away, never take a bath in the river Ganges. So meditation gives meditation gives you the depth, and without depth, you cannot understand Mahavir. So my efforts have been everybody to meditate on a regular basis. Doesn't matter where you reach or anything, but to once you reach to the samadhi state, then you will be able to understand Mahavir, because Mahavir himself is so deep. To understand a deep person like that, you cannot come with a superficial mind. Okay, we may not be able to reach to the state of Mahavir in this life, or maybe in another 10 lives, we don't know. But at least we can make efforts. And without reaching the depth of Samadhi state, you cannot understand Mahavir. Because how deep his thinking is. He stayed in the jungle for 12 years and he remained in total mourn. He did not communicate, he did not talk to anyone. He did not leave the jungle except to go to, looking for bhiksha, just took the food. And that also he ate 365 days out of 12 years. So one day every 12 days he ate. So, and that's how much he was so absorbed within himself. So his explanation that we talked about in the lectures on nonviolence was that killing on someone is not, or not killing someone is not necessarily a nonviolence. You may kill someone which have a good heart. You may have to do the euthanasia to the dog that is suffering. That's killing, but then Jains may not like it, but in the practicality, you're making somebody relief from their suffering. So a lot of those things are become, the questions are kind of fuzzy answers. You cannot decide whether it's killing someone. So at that level, if that's all Mahavir was saying, then his teachings is very superficial, has no value. Because then he can be questioned at every moment. A surgeon trying to cut open the belly, and he's giving a lot of suffering, but his intention is good. So Mahavir says the real non-violence has to happen at your mind, thought, intellect, and intellectual level. That's where the purification is needed. So he traced it further. He says that violence can be committed not just at the physical level, but also at the mind level. I can insult you for your beliefs. That is a violence. I can try to control you at my house level. Husbands trying to control wives, wives trying to control husbands, parents trying to control the children. All these things are happening. There is no physical violence being done, and yet he says the violence is happening. He traced all these philosophies to such a deep level that, and through his realization, he expressed a lot of these thoughts and teachings that becomes difficult to understand unless you spend time within. He says that even at the mind level, your ego is continuously alive. If I am a Hindu, I'm confining myself to be a Hindu. That means I'm not going to respect anyone who is not Hindu. All of a sudden, that becomes a weapon. Whether it translates into a physical action and killing the Muslim or not is another story. But inside, at my mind level, I already have created a barrier that I am such and such. And that becomes part of the ego. Ego is a weapon. Ego is almost like a sword you're walking around with, whether you use it or not. But your intention is already there. Anytime you get into a situation where you're kind of questioned, you draw the sword out and start fighting. So all your identifications put all together, it makes your ego. And ego is a weapon. He says ego can do a lot of damage to someone else, even at a very subtle level. But we throw these egos on our children. Oh, you are Hindu, you have to go to the temple. You are a Muslim, you have to do this, you have to do this. All these things are thrown upon, which are borrowed from outside. These are coming from the outside society, and they become our identifications. Like Vijay Bhai says, conditioning. These are all conditioning. As long as you have conditioning, you're not pure. Because with this conditioning, we not only pick it up, but we live our life for this conditioning till we die. We never die realizing ourselves who we really are in a totally unconditioned state, in which state we were born. And we die with full of conditioning. We never really understand. Even when we were born, we were deconditioned. But we never had our interior mechanism was not developed enough to understand, go into meditation and go supersede our mind and transcend the mind and all those things. So, and when we grew up, we had a chance, but by that time we got conditioned. And then in this conditioning, we spend our whole life till we die, and we never get to enjoy knowing your own soul. So for that, it's very important, these conditions. So Mahavir says this conditioning itself is a crime, is a violence, because for those conditioning, I'm going to try to defend myself. And these conditionings are coming from where? From the life. Our attachment to the life is because of this conditioning. When I identify myself with the house, with my wife, with my children, or my car and my house and my practice, and all those things are attachments. Attachments are creating the conditioning. My this, my this, my this, my this. And in one word, he puts it as jiveshna. Jiveshna is the lust for life. Somehow we have a strange connection to this life, that life has to give us all the answers. When we get confused, we ask our parents, not knowing whether they are confused or not. We think they are not. As a child, we don't know. But even once we grow up, then we go to the pujari and expecting him to know everything, but he's bound by his own conditionings also. So Mahavir says, your questions will be answered within, not without, because you don't know. Outside person could be conditioned too. Conditioned by money, conditioned by fame, conditioned by whatever. So looking for answers from outside, but somehow we are strangely connected to the life. And whatever life has to give us, we want more and more. Whether it gives money, it gives fame. Even till we die, we are worried about, oh, how many people are going to attend my funeral? I mean, what difference does it make? I want to make sure that how many people, even the children, when they carry out their funeral for their parents, is 1,000 people came. So what? What difference does it make? As if whatever life is giving us is so valuable to us. All the money that Mahavir says, whatever you get, whether you get money or you get fame or whatever, it never stays with you anyway. At the end of life, you have to give it up. So why spend your whole life? And that's why he called Jiveshna is the ultimate cause of violence. Because when I have Jiveshna, that means I don't want to die, because for me, life is the ultimate source of pleasure, of whatever pleasure that may be, whether it's Heineken or candies or drugs or people, fame. For actors is the fame, for the politicians is the votes, all those things. We continuously running after the objects, and we think this life has to give me the things that I want, and that's why I'm going to resist the death also, because death is going to take it away. We know it's a reality. So Mahavir says the stronger you are tied to the life, the stronger you're going to resist the death. You have to realize this Jiveshna is a foolishness. So Mahavir says, I'm giving it up. That does not mean I want to die tomorrow either. Whatever life brings in, I'm going to treat it as a temporary existence of that thing, whether it could be a person, could be money, could be whatever. Just because I'm popular today does not mean I'm going to stay popular tomorrow. It may reverse completely. So, but whatever came from outside also going to go back to the outside. Once we had a gathering of our BJ Medical College, right? So I like to tell jokes all the time. So one time in one session that we had, we got together in Chicago, and just a lot of jokes, and I just like to tell the jokes. So now they say, well, we'll give you the king of jokes, that title. So next time when we got together 2 years later, we had another guy, and his jokes were really superb, right? So he says, well, sorry, we have to take that title away from you as a king, we have to give it to Vinit. I said, you are the one who gave it to me. You are taking it back. How does it matter to me? He said, don't feel bad. I said, I don't feel bad. I'm just saying. So the point I'm making is whatever we're getting has a temporary existence. If we treat every event that is happening in our life as a temporary gift from God or consciousness, whatever you want to call, and it's never yours, the connection that you set up between is the foolishness. And that starts the conditioning. And along with the conditioning, and then we lose our connection and lose our chance to know the Atma. The Atma is the soul, which is purely unconditioned existence. and it's there. But Mahavir says, until we are blinded by the Jiveshna, we're gonna be causing the violence. Whoever comes between you and whatever you like that you are conditioned with, whoever comes in between will be the person who will suffer from your violence. Because whenever you want to hold on to something, if he or she comes in the way, you're ready to insult, you're ready to get rid of them. So all these interactions in a negativistic way it's happening, he's putting everything together as a violence. And when you realize that your grip for the life, Jiveshna, is the ultimate cause of violence. So when you understand the mechanism behind the violence that you're performing, and you understand that it's your Jiveshna, it's nobody else's, it's your desires that's causing you the suffering, then they start breaking up. And for that understanding, you need to meditate and you need to observe all the intricate walks and the movements of your mind, how the moment is behaving, how the moment is going in this direction, that direction, and trying to get this, trying to get that. When you start observing all these things in the meditative state, you realize that even if all these things were not there, you would still exist. And that pure existence is your soul. So the whole purpose of non-violence, and even for Mahavir, it's the non-violence is not necessarily just the sympathy on the animals or sympathy on other human beings or nothing like that. He tells that that is a way to reach to the Atma. When you start becoming non-violent within your heart, that, okay, if I am an Atma and all the things that are happening in front of me are happening in its natural cycle, because everything that is happening is carried from their karmas, and whatever is going to go on, it's all operated at a very high level. I start accepting whatever happens as ultimate truth. So you don't have any grasp, you don't want to hold on to something, you don't want to run after something, you just be an observer of the whole events that is happening and in natural sequences that is happening. So Mahavir gives the most importance to the naturality of life. Holding on to the life is not natural. And he says that generates the violence. At the same time, if my soul is so tender that I am happy with just being myself, just to live within your own soul, and Mahavir calls it samyak drashti, means I am samyak. I am totally self-sufficient. I don't have to do anything to get something to become happy, like we talked about today. So my happiness is within myself. Whoever comes and brings additional happiness to express that, that's fine too. And if they don't, that's fine too. So naturality of life becomes totally acceptable if you have a pure soul of Mahavir. But then at the same time, he says that all the other souls around me are also going through the same sequence, just the way I am going through, the natural evolution. I have to let it happen on their own. By me forcing my ideas on someone, by throwing my own beliefs onto them, I am causing disturbances in their cycles where they were evolving on their own. And that's why I do not want to interfere with their life. And that's why I'm going to do maximum possible efforts where they can live their life to the fullest. I will also make my efforts so that I speak after considerable efforts and really realizing that my words do not cause unnecessary imposing ideas being thrown onto somebody else's ideas, because who knows, they may be totally opposite. Same thing when I walk, I'm going to be careful. When I talk, I'm going to be careful. So that's how he created his soul. It was very powerful as it was, but at the same time very soft and considerate to everybody else. That's what he calls non-violence. So until you understand the non-violence, you cannot go to the next step of Sanyam. Sanyam is a totally next phase, but unless you understand what soul is, you cannot go to Sanyam. So ahimsa sanjamo tavo. So that's why Sanyam is important next step, but without recognizing the first step, you cannot go. That's why meditation becomes very important. So question remains is, how do we proceed from non-violence to ahimsa, to sanyam. You have to have the clarity of the concept, clarity of the mind, and nothing can make this substantiate further unless you have actual experience of samadhi. You have to be able to reach to a samadhi state, and once you reach the samadhi state, then you can walk parallel with Mahavir. Then he can take you to the journey, because once you realize that you have a soul which is pure and which can be unconditioned, without conditioning of any kind that is coming from the world, we still gonna have some conditioning that we'll have to deal with, because that's given by nature. Being a male or a female, that's an identification. You cannot escape that. But spirituality says there is a way to escape that too. If you transcend that, you can even give up that conditioning. But that's the toughest one to transcend. But all the other conditioning, by intellectual understanding, arguing, and going through the process of all those Gnan Yoga or whatever path you want to take, but ultimately you can reach to a deconditioned state where you can just exist in its purest form, just like the children are existing, except children don't know that they are in that state. But we can be like children and be in that state and still operate in the day-to-day world. So that's the goal of spirituality. So before we go into Sanyam, which is the next phase of Mahavir's teachings, because he says that once is just to have a pure heart is not enough, because we have a lot of other things to worry about. Because if you have a pure heart, how long is going to stay pure? Until your senses are going to come. Your sensual experiences, they're going to keep and throwing at you and knocking on your door. What are you going to do about that? That's when you're going to need Sanyam. So Sanyam, explanation of Sanyam, and we'll go into the more details later on. But today's lecture, I really wanted to give a background of whatever we talked about. But before we go into Sanyam, there was one nice question was raised based on non-violence. So we're going to talk more about that a little bit. So one of the questions that was asked to Osho, that if Mahavir is passing by and he sees a violence being committed, what would he do? Very good question, because we would like to know, if such a pure heart and you have a deconditioned heart and soul, what would he do? Which side will he take? And if a Mahavir is passing by and a woman, two extreme crimes, murder and rape, if a woman is being raped, what would Mahavir do? So Osho gives beautiful answer, and I thought it was very interesting and totally coincidental with our discussion. So Osho says, he says few things we have to understand. What is killing? We know from our spiritual discussions that killing is not a physical act, right? So killing of a human being or an animal or that ultimately does not destroy their soul. So killing, if we define killing in a traditional way, then definition of killing falls apart. Also, Mahavir knows that situation that is created in a day-to-day life has been created with so many background karmas, because we had multiple births and deaths, and we're going to have a lot of births and deaths in the future also. The situation that has been created, that one guy murders another guy, we don't know what are their karmas, because the guy who is being killed, he's probably filling up, because he might have killed someone else or the murderer in his past life, and now he's just making the equation even, so that he goes through this karma, so that he finishes his. So karmic life and karmic load decides a lot of these actions. And we know that, even in a day-to-day settings, we know that eating an apple or an apple pie, apple does not generate a karma, but apple pie does generate a karma, because 2 days later, you're going to be looking for apple pie again. There is a connection. Whatever is happening 2 days later, it depends upon what you did 2 days earlier. And this is happening right in front of your eyes. Mahavir's eyes are much wider. He knows the karmic load that you're carrying. And that's why you're here, to finish your karmic load. So again, Mahavir's vision of a killing is a lot broader than what you can call a killing. Also, we always think that the one who is doing the killing is one at fault, and the one who is being killed is the sufferer. We always think that way because the one who is aggressive is always the one who is the perpetrator of the crime, and the one who is the sufferer is poor guy. And we always take sides. But Mahavir says it's not always so. If before 1930 somebody had killed Hitler, he would have been gone to jail, right? But now knowing that he killed 6 million Jews later on, maybe he would have done the right thing. So the idea of good and the bad are all relative. And sometimes it surfaces. Whatever was considered bad, killing a Hitler, might turn out to be good. If you fast forward life, 20, 30 years later, it's too good. So goodness and badness, you cannot label any act as a permanent label. But our mind divides everything into goodness and badness. We never realize what is happened before and what is going to happen later. So Mahavir says you don't have to rush in to the judgment of everything that is happening around you. And after all, who gives you the authority to call it good or bad? Because you yourself are not at the state of Mahavir, first of all. And two, you don't know the future. You don't know the past. If you see a drunkard on the way, the guy is totally drunk and he's begging you to take him to his house. Would you? You say, most of the people says, yes, I will give him a ride. What if a guy goes home and kills his wife in drunken state? If you had not taken him, the guy would have spent his whole night in the park and probably been sober and gone home, and probably wife would have survived. What was the wife's fault? No. Maybe the fault was yours. So what I'm saying is the goodness and the badness and every act. The whole purpose is the discussion is not about whether it was the killer of Hitler did a bad thing. There is no question about it. But we don't know how bad it is. Osho says and Mahavir says, all your actions which are done with intentions are bad. Now the question comes in how bad it is. Less bad or more bad? It all depends upon who you talk to, or what really happens in the past, what happens in the future. So Mahavir says your mind can take you for a ride. Your mind is what we are using because that's all we had. Mahavir says transcend the mind. Mind is never gonna help you make the correct judgment. Mind will always throw a curveball, and that curveball we think is a straight ball, but it always is a curveball because that's the ultimate result of these so many processes coming out of the soul and the bhav and the thoughts and the vichars and beliefs and all that, and finally the action comes in. All we know is the action. Once it happened, Mullah Nasruddin was passing by, and there was a big guy sitting on the top of a little guy and banging him up. Mullah Nasruddin said, this is not fair. So he jumps right into the middle of all these things, and he really gives a hard time to this heavy-set guy. And then, of course, the little guy also got freed. So they both together, they beat up the big guy. And so the little guy runs away. And then finally, the big guy comes back to the Mullah Nasruddin. He says, Mullah, what did you do this for? He says, you're such a big guy. Why are you beating a small guy like this? He says, he stole my wallet. He stole my wallet. So I was beating him, trying to get the wallet from him. Now he's gone with the wallet. What are you going to do? Now Mullah Nasruddin said, no, that's not fair. So he runs after the little guy, but he runs fast and fast, and he finally catches the guy, gets the wallet from him. So the guy says, here, the wallet is yours. You are the real winner of that wallet. You keep the wallet. The bottom line is, the moral of the story is, not all the acts that we think are done with the right intentions are right. And not all the actions done with the bad intentions are bad either. So Mahavir says, stop judging the sansar. Sansar is a lot more deeper than you think. So trying to make a judgment of goodness and badness and all those things. So killing and not killing and all these things, making all these judgments are useless. When you utilize your mind you are performing an action which is done with your ego. Mind is ego. Mind is a collection of your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas. And when you act at the mind level, all actions are going to be faulty, are going to be conditioned. If someone that is close to you, it will hurt you. If somebody within your family dies, it's going to hurt you. If somebody else's father dies, you will go the process, the funeral, you go attend and all that, and go out and go for dosa. It doesn't matter. The guy who is suffering. You never feel the suffering. You express it, but it's never even felt at your inside, because yours is yours. The whatever is closer to you, you feel that should not have happened. Then you resist. If a Hindu dies, all Hindus feel bad. But if a Muslim dies, Hindus have no problem. If somebody dies in Pakistan, or earthquake happens in Pakistan, it doesn't bother us. But if the earthquake happens in Bombay or Ahmedabad, it's your own hometown, oh my God, let's see this and this, and then all the help force and all that. We never go to help the Pakistani people suffering. So we decide what is killing and what is not killing. We decide what is bad and what is not bad. If you have a gangrene on your foot, won't you sacrifice food to preserve your body or the brain? So whatever is the closest, we consider the brain as the most important. We sacrifice food for preserving the brain. So we decide. So Osho says Mahavir is a different entity. He lives at the soul level. His decisions will not be coming out at the mind level. The day he became Mahavir, he transcended the mind. His actions, if they are carried out by his own ego or his versions of what is good and bad, then he's acting at the mind level. If somebody is being killed, for example, in front of us, what would we do? We'll say, well, can I handle that guy who is doing the killing? If he's a little guy, we'll jump in. If he's a big guy, we probably won't. If you were in India, you will say, even if I help, would it be a police case? If it's a police case, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get into the hassle of going to the court. And what if the guy he's killing is a mafia guy? What if he's a don, goes after my whole family? I'm not going to do it. Or the other way around, even if the guy is small and it's an easy situation to deal with, you do it. Would I get a fame? Will I be in the press? Will the people appreciate what I do? If I'm not being appreciated, why would I do it? All those questions will come because we're living at the mind level. And that's why Mahavir is saying that violence is a lot deeper than what we call violence. Jains call killing someone and killing not someone and all that. It's easy. It's easy to follow what Mahavir was doing, but it's not easy to understand the whole process, the purification of the soul, purifications of the mind, the thoughts and the beliefs and all these things is not easy. Then his actions come out as pure. So pure actions have a lot of backing up behind them. And nobody wants to go into that process of clarification, the purifications within themselves. And when that does not happen, all you can do is mimic Mahavir. Mahavir does the fasting. Why does he fasting? Because he lost interest in eating because he was so happy within, with his own presence of the soul. And in a sthit prajna state, he was so happy that he even forgot that he had to eat. Now we do the fasting to impress everybody. That I did 8 days of fasting, 16 days of fasting. People do that to lose weight, and these all physical characteristics has nothing to do with the soul purifications. So that's how life goes, So there was a belief also that wherever Mahavir walked, within 100 miles radius, all the people will become cured from their illnesses. So again, this is idiotic statement, because by raising Mahavir to such a godly level and then worshipping Mahavir, all it does is intensifies your ego that your God could do this. And this God does not do that. So he is superior. and this God is inferior. So putting all these miracles and all those things in the name of Mahavir also gives that people are living at the mind level and that ego has not been transcended yet. If your ego was transcended, if you realize the existence of your soul at a samadhi state, you are nobody. Forget about being Jain or Hindu and all that. Even your body is not you, even mind is not you. Then what is the problem? So making all these statements also was brought up to Osho, and Osho says that whoever said that a lot of people will be cured of their illnesses, they don't know what the illnesses is about. Illnesses is presence of such and such type of bacteria within your body. Some has a smallpox or cholera or typhoid or whatever. There are billions of bacteria living within you. Curing you of that disease, that also means killing those bacteria. Now, doesn't matter whether bacteria are important or human being is important. When it comes to bacteria, they don't even know that you exist. All there is making a living within your body. They are living within your body and getting all the nourishment from your body. They don't even know you exist. Just because you know you exist and you think that you are the most important, bacteria are not important. For Mahavir, even bacteria are important. They say it's the importance of not the physical structure they're carrying, the importance is of the soul. Every soul is important. Every soul, this is the most democratic thinking that anyone can have. Every soul is important. Every soul is migrating through the karmic cycle in its own way. They also have a right. So Mahavir will never make that mistake of curing you of your typhoid or cholera and then take up sufferings and pap scene of killing all these bacteria. The science says that the number of cells within your body, you multiply 10 times, that's how many organisms are present in your body. So when I'm killing you, I'm killing only 10% of you. I'm killing other 90% of you also. So you are nothing. 90% are the organisms. So again, killing is all relative. We kill people, we only tell when somebody stabs somebody, we call it a killing. And even killing becomes a pleasure. When lion kills someone for his hunger, we call it a lion is bad. We should kill that lion. He is a man-eater. But when we go and kill the lion, it becomes a game. And that's okay, because lion's soul has no value. Our soul, because it's our cells and it's close to us, becomes more important than the soul of the lion. So at least the lion kills when he's hungry. But we do the killing when we are full. When we are fully satisfied, then we go on a game ride after a nice dinner just to kill. Man is the only animal who does the killing when he's full. All the other animals kill only when they are hungry. So again, the definition of killing changes because we are looking at the world only from a single track mind. And then we hang out with the people who all believe the same way. Oh yeah, that is correct. And then we believe that that's the truth. But science knows that every organism has the life force within it. And spiritually we know that life force is what is responsible for creation of all this life that is around us, whether it's a small centipede or a goat or a deer or any animal or any human being. Everywhere it's the same life force that's going through. Same molecules which were making dinosaurs, 160 million, is making us. But the life force continued. It kept on changing the forms. So Mahavir says that it's not easy. Osho says it's not easy to answer what Mahavir would do. So Mahavir says Jiveshna is the cause of violence. Whenever you try to live at the cost of those bacteria, that's violence. Because for you, your soul became more important than the soul of the bacteria. And of course, we should live a healthy life, no question about it. But I'm talking about the mentality point of view. Whether it translates into say, okay, whenever you're sick, you don't seek the treatment. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in general how our mentality works. That what is more important to us is us. And that's ego. So Mahavir says that itself is a fault. So it's not, doesn't matter whether you're going to go to the doctors and get the medicine or not. The main thing is how much softness you have at your soul level to give a respect to every single creature around you. And that's what we want to develop within ourselves. And if you have that purified heart, then living in the life, you in the real world, you will be living like a saint. And you will be in that happy mode because you don't want anything from the world. Because whatever world will give you is never going to be permanent anyway. So why bother? You do your actions totally backed up by the state of happiness, state of joy, without desiring anything, and then your actions will be always pure. So the question comes in, still remains, what Mahavir would do. So that's what Osho is saying, that he will not be action oriented. No one can predict what Mahavir would do in this situation. Even Mahavir cannot predict. And you know why? Because predictable things is a sign of materialism. It's like machine. Machine can be predicted. You know the computer, you turn on and it will come on. Set 2 and 2, it will always spit out the right answer. These are machines. We have become machines. All our conditionings are making us machines. I know exactly if you come into the yoga class, you will go into that corner. What mat you will be picking up, how many asanas you will do, and at what level you will do. At the end of the class, what talks you will be coming out of you. I know exactly, because this is all predictable. This is our mechanical thing. We just keep repeating ourselves, right? But we are not. The moment we start becoming unpredictable, we are becoming spiritual. Spirituality you cannot predict. Even a cow, like when it leaves the house in India, it goes all over. But we know at the end of the day, cow will come home. That we know. We don't have to go and look for the cow. Cow knows, because cow is an animal. Even though it's an animal, once in a while it will get distracted if somebody tries to feed something extra and will go. But it has some amount of consciousness still there, that awareness, it will go. But most of the times you can predict that cow will come home at the end of the day. So this is our mechanical life. And what makes us mechanical is our bondage. Our bondage to all the things which are conditioning. That we know we wake up in the morning, and if I'm a religious, I'm going to go to the Derasar to bow down to the temple. And then I know that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. We become totally predictable. So that's why people want to know what Mahavir would do so that they can copy it. And that's all the people want for. And so that they can copy if they are in the same situation. But this is not something, Mahavir is not a machine. He's a spirit. He's not a human being anymore. He is a soul. Souls cannot be predicted, because you know the mobility of a human being at physical level is how fast can you go? 13 miles an hour? World record, 2 hours, marathon, give and take. Mind, very swift, going all over the places. But still, it has limitations. Why? What are the limitations of the mind? The knowledge. If I tell you to think about my grandson, and if you have never seen him, you cannot think about him. That's where the mind says, oh, I don't know. Don't know. Whatever you know, you can think of in a second. Lot faster than a speed of light even. Speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. It can go on a galaxy, on the moon, in a fraction of a second. And yet, the limitation is the knowledge. Whatever has been fed to the mind, you can think of. Whatever is beyond that, you cannot. So the spirit is beyond that. The samadhi state is transcending the mind. So those are the confines of your mind, confines of your body. You are rising above all these things. You're becoming infinite. And the shunyata, the shunya state, which is beyond all these things, is the state you want to experience in samadhi. And when you experience that, your answers, your actions will come out of the shunyata and will go merge back into the shunyata. Mahavir cannot predict what he's going to do, because he's not himself. He will just do it, and even when he does it, he's not a doer. He, as a soul, will be observing that the body of person called Vardhaman or Mahavir is saving such and such person from the misery, from the crime or rape or whatever, but he will be the observer of the actions. He will never be a doer of the action. So doership is coming out of the mind. Non-doership comes out of the shunyata. So we all want to reach to the shunya state. So all our actions may be unpredictable, but they will be pure because there is no motive to gain. There is nothing to gain because we have bypassed, we have transcended the Jiveshna. Once you transcend the Jiveshna, then you have no desires for yourself. So your actions will be always pure. So I thought this was a good question to discuss. The next phase we'll talk about the rape. There are some other things to talk about, but that we'll talk about next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you stop?